Gary.
It's only 3 weeks since the devolved administrations and the UK government agreed this Christmas relaxation, and already so much is changing. The laws are staying the same. Boris Johnson said as you said, he thought it would be inhuman to change them when people have got their plans. He didn't want to criminalise those people if they went ahead with their gatherings. But the guidance really is changing. I think some of the devolved administrations, Scotland in particular, feel that Boris Johnson is playing catch-up with their guidance, which they would argue has always been a bit sterner. But listening to the Prime Minister today was a very different kettle of fish from listening to him when he originally announced this stuff. Then he was saying that in the Christmas relaxation, he wanted people to be responsible. I remember he was pressed by someone on, did that mean that he was happy for people to drive hundreds of miles across the country to go and meet up with someone else? And he ducked the question. This time, he said, actually, if you're in Tier 3, please seriously think of not going to a lower zone. Seriously try and keep your trip to as short as possible. Try and avoid going overnight and basically try and avoid this gathering at all if you can. And you get an idea from what's happened in Wales today as to what is driving all of this. Fear of a surge in infections there means that today the Welsh Government formally announced that they've booked in their post-Christmas lockdown, their move to Tier 4 in Wales's system already.
With only 8 days to go before many travel cross-country to meet up with relations and take advantage of the Christmas relaxation of COVID rules, the government's changed the message.
We're keeping the laws the same, but we all want to send the same message. A smaller Christmas is going to be a safer Christmas, and a shorter Christmas is a safer Christmas. That if you're visiting others over Christmas, we're asking you, in the 5 days beforehand, as early as this Friday, to reduce the number of people you're in contact with to the lowest possible. If possible, don't travel from a high prevalence to a low prevalence area, and avoid staying away from home overnight if you can.
The Prime Minister tightened up the guidance under pressure from scientists and COVID infection rates. His promise that all of the UK would stay under the same COVID laws was quickly undermined by the Welsh Government, which announced it would put into law a new cap of 2 households meeting indoors over Christmas, not 3.
I do need to say that here in Wales, the message is very clear. Only 2 households should meet together over Christmas in view of the seriousness of the position we face here.
Some in the Scottish Government say Boris Johnson is catching up with their consistently sterner messaging about the Christmas relaxation.
If you haven't made plans to form a bubble yet, please don't. If you are still swithering, please decide against. And if you have made plans but think they're not really essential, perhaps think about postponing until later in the year.
All 4 governments in the UK agreed that changing the law would disrupt too many people's plans and lead to widespread law breaking. The hope is that the leeway the law gives individuals isn't widely taken up.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's sensible in any way. I mean, you wouldn't, for example, drive at 70 miles an hour if there was a very icy road, even though the law might say 70 miles an hour is what you officially can drive at.
In Surrey, amongst the first to be vaccinated, the 92-year-old entertainer Lionel Blair, one of those who'd already decided not to take advantage of the Christmas relaxation freedoms.
Having heard there might be another wave if too many people get together, we're going to keep it. Just Sue and I, we bought a small chicken, a small turkey.
The Prime Minister announced that 138,000 people had already been vaccinated in the first week of the rollout, and he said if people exercised extreme caution, life would return to normal.
Have yourselves a merry little Christmas, but this year, alas, preferably a very little Christmas, but with the vaccine and everything else that we're doing, next year, we hope it will be back to Christmas as normal for everyone. Thank you.
The Chief Medical Advisor said modelling showed that socialising over Christmas would mean more illness and more deaths. Just over a week from the start of the relaxation and planned family reunions, the government's hoping public health messaging can bring down those numbers.
Gary Gibbon. Well, in Wales, First Minister Mark Drakeford has said that people must limit mixing over Christmas to just 2 households, something which will be put into law ahead of a third Welsh lockdown, which comes into force on the 28th of December. Well, earlier I spoke to Mr. Drakeford and I began by asking him if his government had lost control of the pandemic.
I wouldn't describe the situation at all as out of control, because right across our public services, social care, the health service and in the Welsh Government, we are taking action to bring the situation to a point where our health service can confidently manage both coronavirus and everything else that we needed to do.
But can it manage? Because your infection rates, for instance, in the Swansea Bay area, are 600 per 100,000. These are some of the highest rates on the planet. And they seem to be going up all the time, despite the fact that you've been in some form of restriction for quite a long time now.
Well, that is why we've announced today that we will have to immediately after Christmas go into a fuller form of restrictions, because despite everything that we are doing, the numbers are not where we need them to be.
But given the fact that the restrictions that you have put in place, more than many other parts of the country, since September, haven't really worked, what makes you think that you can avoid the worst case scenario with Christmas?
Well, I think we can be confident because of the experience we had in October and November, a 17-day fire break period. We hoped that it would reset the clock to 3 weeks earlier in the autumn. It did that. We hoped that it would reduce the R number below 1 for at least 3 weeks. It did that. Now, what we had hoped was that those gains would be sustained for longer in the post-fire break period. In practice, coronavirus has accelerated away from us faster than we had expected and faster than the models we had told us it would. By going back to that tighter level of restrictions, I think we can be confident that it will have the impact we need, slow down the virus, reverse the flow, give our health service the headroom it needs.
But 3 households is still the rule in England, and we were told that basically everyone was on the same page. They clearly aren't. Did you try and pressure the Westminster government into adopting the 2-household rule for England as well?
No, there was no sense of pressurising one another in the meeting we had earlier today. It was a very serious, very sober meeting, looking at the difficult circumstances that are there in many parts of the United Kingdom. We've agreed on a joint statement, which I think everywhere in the United Kingdom, we are asking people to use the freedoms they have sensibly, cautiously, responsibly. There are nuances in all our nations, and it's right for the people in charge in each nation to express those nuances on behalf of their populations.
And when it comes to restrictions, finally and briefly, where Wales leads, do you think England will inevitably follow?
I don't think it's inevitable, but if you look around the world, whenever restrictions are lifted, you see coronavirus come back. And that's true not just in the United Kingdom, but right across Europe as well. You can't hold people in lockdown indefinitely, but when you move beyond it, the challenge is there for us all.
Mark Drakeford, thank you very much.